Hello, everyone. Welcome back finally to Eric Discussion. I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Eric.
And we want to apologize again for the long delay. I guess it's 2 shows in a row we've had a bit of a delay after myriad...
This time it was both of our fault.
Yeah, well, after myriad scheduling conflicts and technical difficulties, finally we're bringing you Air Discussions a full week and a day after the last episode aired. And so you might have already seen this week's episode by the time this gets posted. But
future
that's
events
okay.
such as these will affect you in the future.
So we just want to reiterate that we've not... I think the new episode aired today, didn't it, Eric?
Today is Wednesday, I believe so, unless we skipped another week.
Yeah, I don't think we did. But anyway, so it's likely that you've already seen the new episode. So if you have and you're wondering why we're not talking about it, that's why we've not watched it yet. We'll be back with you next Monday, as always, with the new episode, assuming that it aired. I think it aired.
As always,
anyway.
Except for this week and last week.
As normal, as often as we possibly can.
Or in season 1 where we did I think twice we did 2 episodes.
That's true, we did. And I considered doing it that way this time, but I know this is an episode that you had a lot to say about, so I want to make sure we did a full episode on it.
I don't know how it happened, but both times last time, it lined up and they were kind of like 2-parters.
Yeah, that's true. We didn't really have that this time. Wouldn't it have been really strange talking about Suicide Squad and Birds of Prey at the same time?
Actually, it would kind of make sense. I mean, they're both kind of... Let's push in other comic books into this comic book.
Yeah, but you know who's going to have
an episode called City of Blood.
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it will be a sequel to the Kurosawa film Throne of Blood.
So we're playing catch up for you today. We're going to go ahead and start with our new routine, which is answering audience questions and discussing things that audience members mentioned to us and talking about things that maybe we were wrong about last time that somebody corrects us on. So we're going to start with a comment from Steve Baxi. And Steve says, having watched Suicide Squad and remembering your pointers about the flashbacks, do you think Amanda Waller will be the focus of the Season 3 Island story? Friars was talking to a woman in red heels at the end of Season 1, and I think we can all agree that's probably who that was at this point, right, Eric?
We have 3 people that it could have been. It was Amanda Waller, Isabel, and there was somebody else.
And Steve says we learned that was Waller. I don't know if that was ever explicitly stated anywhere, but I don't remember.
Yeah, maybe we're just dumb.
Well, I think that the reveal was, here's a woman walking down a hallway in red shoes, and then pull back and it's Waller. So I think that we can all be pretty sure that's who it was supposed to be, unless there's some other weird red shoe herring. And he says, and how it seems like Waller and Oliver will have a past because of the way they discuss Slade. That's something I wanted to bring up too. That would also explain how she knew Oliver was the Arrow without any apparent work or forcing him to join her task force. Yeah, you can tell pretty well after this episode that they had some history on the island. I agree. I think that's likely that she'll be on a lot of the islands.
I hadn't thought of that, but yeah, that makes sense. We haven't really had any follow up on that Fives thing.
Not really.
This season's kind of been completely divorced of that. Yeah, I'm wondering if maybe we'll see. Now that that's been brought up, maybe we'll see a previous version of the Suicide Squad in flashback.
Nikos52 says, hey, Cap, I'm going to make a prediction here, and I hope you guys will discuss it. Yes, we're going to. Here we go. This just came to me, and I don't have anything in particular to base it off of, but here it is. Laurel is going to be part of Birds of Prey, replacing the role of Barbara Gordon. I don't know if she'll be crippled at some point, but I think this is where they'll go with it. I doubt that they'll replace Sarah as Black Canary, since Katie is so popular in the role. I'm still scared to death they're going to kill her off, by the way.
Me too.
Sarah as Black Canary and Laurel as Black Canary doesn't make that much sense at this point, even with her decent hand-to-hand combat skills. No, they won't do that early. Although, again, you might already know if you're listening. If you saw it last night, what are your thoughts about this? Do you think it's likely to happen? Isn't this the best for us, since we probably can never get Barbara Gordon in the series, and Katie is simply perfect as Black Canary? That's not a bad prediction.
Except that Laurel has no computer abilities that we're aware of.
There's that.
I guess it's possible, but
super lawyer powers.
At best, she'll be I don't know, watching I don't know. It makes more sense if it's oh no, I've forgotten her name. Um,
Felicity?
Felicity. It makes more sense if it's Felicity than it does for Laurel. Laurel has no computer abilities.
Well, especially because yeah, and the thing we got to keep in mind with the whole Birds of Prey thing too, and this feels weird since we're late on this episode, but the whole thing with the Birds of Prey is everybody that's going to be involved in that air quote team is on Team Arrow, and they all know each other's secret identities. So Felicity could very easily be working with them. In fact, probably will be, right?
I'm wondering if the Birds of Prey title is just kind of like a wink wink thing as opposed to Suicide Squad where we got the actual Suicide Squad.
I don't know, man. They really like doing stuff like that, but at the same time, like the Huntress is still more of an antagonistic character in the show so far.
Well, we haven't seen her in at least a season, like a season's worth of episodes now.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
So I guess we'll see. It's not really worth speculating on too much right now, considering again we're kind of late with this. EC Cons. Sarah didn't say Shadow was wearing the hood the last time she saw it. She said Shadow was wearing it the first time she saw it, and there were several thumbs up on that. So apparently lots of people caught that and we didn't.
Okay. Well, I think in the video we were both kind of hazy. Like I think I remember saying something.
Mr. Effect Films. Hey, Eric, I don't know if you noticed, but Oliver on the island, particularly in the scene where he's talking to Sarah before the end, is really starting to look a lot like he does in Green Arrow Year One. He's got the slightly long blonde hair, the small beard, and even a mustache growing in.
Yeah. I have definitely been noticing that. You haven't read Year One, have you?
No, I haven't yet. I need to.
Yeah, he's kind of starting to look like he does by the end of Year One. So
We talked about reviewing that before this season, and I just didn't get around to getting a copy, but I still would like to do that.
yeah, that was on you.
That was on me.
I own the hardcover from like years back.
It's all my fault. We also still need to review A Demon in the Bottle, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, which we've been supposed to do since before Iron Man 3. I'm gonna have to
yeah,
reread it. There was a point where I was like, oh, I just read that stuff in the omnibus. We should totally do it now, and that was like a year ago.
I started it, but then I got busy. Dylan the villain. Flynn could be the Batman villain Deacon Blackfire. A few people mentioned that. In the comics, he's a con man and cult leader, which could explain why he's a priest. And in his first appearance, he formed an army in the sewers beneath Gotham, which could be a nod to his pet rat and the "Can you imagine a better place for a man in my line" of
Oh,
work
he's the
line.
guy from the cult. I've never read the cult. Everybody talks
Yeah, I
about like
haven't
what an
either.
amazing Batman story it is, and they put it back in print for like 6 months, and then it went right back out of print.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's supposed to be like a seminal Batman book, and I've never read it.
Well,
I've actually heard that there's stuff of the cult in Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's supposed to be a huge book, and it's just it went back in print and then went right back out of print. It's just expensive, but yeah, that I just looked him up, and it looks like that was his only major appearance outside of he came back in Blackest Night, so I guess he dies in the cult.
Well, considering all of the villain stuff they've been borrowing, especially from Batman, that's not a hard sell at all.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, didn't they say
That's
Nightwing's coming?
yeah, yeah, exactly. So I mean, and that's maybe for most people sort of obscure, but they go to obscure stuff in this show. So
Yeah, well, and apparently it's not obscure. We just don't.
no, I'm just saying it's obscure to a general audience.
Oh
Nobody's
yeah,
heard of
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Doesn't read comic books.
Well, almost everything in the show is obscure to a general audience.
That's the point I'm making. So blurific says, is no one going to talk about the fact that Roy is shooting arrows?
Yeah, we didn't really mention that.
Yeah, Roy was shooting arrows. That's cool. I was just caught up in, oh, so finally he's in the arrow cave in this like
I
really
think
contrived.
someone mentioned in the comments that he was actually in the previous two episodes, but his scenes got cut.
Yeah, but a scene's got cut, right? Well, that's unfortunate because cutting those scenes really made that glaring to me. I don't know. Honestly, it didn't have to be the previous episode. It really just needed to be the episode before that. It needed to be the episode after they set him up, where we just see him, one more time there, just for the sake of continuity, really.
Yeah,
And finally, Min Kidzag says, "Cap, it was an ice pick, not a screwdriver." Excuse me, I didn't notice that.
I don't even know what that's in reference to.
The scene where Oliver picks up what I thought was a screwdriver and is about to try to hit Slade with it
Oh, okay.
inside the mansion, and yeah, apparently it was an ice pick.
Why is there an
I wonder
ice pick
why was there
in the
an ice pick?
mansion?
Yeah, um, yeah, I didn't question a screwdriver, but if I'd noticed it when it was an ice pick, I might have been like, why is that? Why is that there? So anyway, I'm not sure what that's about. Okay, so thanks everybody as always for the questions. We had a huge amount of comments last episode, and we always get a lot of comments for this show, but especially last one. And
The last
I
episode was a big episode.
yeah, and so anyway, as always, feel free to leave comments on our discussion today, and we will address as many things as we can next episode, selecting some questions and comments. Thanks for all the thoughtful insights. And now on to Suicide Squad. Time for our general overview. Eric and I have talked briefly about this off recording, and Eric was elated to get to see the Suicide Squad come together, and finally some stuff for Deadshot to do. How did you feel about the character development for Deadshot?
It took 2 seasons, but give him a mustache and cigarettes and get rid of those dumb tattoos, and he's Deadshot. I mean, this episode for me was all about Deadshot. Um, he's finally become the character from the comics, and I just absolutely loved it. I ate up every scene he was in. Even though it's really distracting that like every time there's like a certain lighting he's in with his head slightly tilted and he looks like Peter from Heroes.
Oh man, I kept thinking there was something reminiscent about something with him, and now that you say that, that is exactly what I couldn't put words to. You're absolutely right about that. All he needs is that like weird lip thing that both that actor and Sly Stallone do, and he would totally be that guy.
Well, it's never when it's head on. It's like when his head's like kind of tilted.
Yeah, but he does sort of have a similar facial structure. That's
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But
But
yeah,
all that
no,
all
I
I is just a lot more sympathetic and three dimensional. I think it is really interesting that so many characters, so many bad guys in this show are all trying to save wives or daughters.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of a reoccurring comic book thing. I mean, with Deadshot, I mean, that's from the comics. The daughter thing wasn't introduced till later, but originally it was the son. Um, and that's kind of, and that was a big thing in Gail Simone's Secret Six was that basically all his money goes to his daughter through his ex-wife. And that happens with his son earlier on too. Um, so yeah, that's always been a big part of Deadshot's life in the comics.
And I just think it's interesting that 3 episodes in a row, I'm not saying that it's all too similar, that they just keep mining this, they're going back to the same well. I think that they're maybe doing something with that. I think that they're trying to parallel all of these villains, because 3 episodes in a row we've had this with different characters.
What was the Clock King? I was yeah, yeah.
King
This was my
and the
Clock King episode.
yeah, yeah.
Because as much as I love Deadshot, I love the Suicide Squad. I just have a liking towards that entire premise. Like I like the Thunderbolts. I like bad guys kind of being forced to do, good things, and there's a lot of stuff there.
Well, and then the moral ambiguity of, and of course, this episode is all about moral ambiguity of the good guys using villains for these kinds of means, and like the intentions are good, but they're essentially enslaving people, and what is is that ever okay, and that kind of thing. There was a lot of that. So I got to ask you how you felt about Diggle, because this whole season you've complained about how Diggle's had nothing to do, and of course this was the
I've
Diggle
been
episode.
saying that Diggle has nothing to do unless it's a Diggle-centered episode.
Unless it's a Diggle-centered
So
episode,
this
right?
still falls now. Oh, well, actually, before we get to that, I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Did you know or did you see coming the explosives inside of them?
The explosives
Inside of the Suicide Squad.
No, I didn't.
Okay,
Not really.
okay, because that's a standard Suicide Squad thing. So like the
Well,
second,
I guess the thing was, I figured there was like I mean, I figured that there was something they didn't know about, but I haven't read any Suicide Squad, so I didn't remember what exactly it was. So then as soon as that happened, I was like, oh yeah, that vaguely seems familiar, but I wasn't sure if that was the way they did it in the comics or
Well,
not.
the second Shrapnel started driving away, I was like, oh, he's going to get blown up. And I didn't know if that, because I kind of know that that's a Suicide Squad thing, I was expecting it. Whereas I was wondering if maybe that played as kind of a reveal for you not really knowing Suicide
It
Squad.
did a little bit, and I imagine for a general audience, it absolutely would. I want to say that I think it's really sad that that Shrapnel was so underused just because of the actor who played him.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
like he was entirely wasted.
Well,
Anybody could
and
have
even
played.
in this episode, like, before he dies, he's just kind of there.
Yeah, that's what's sad about it. I mean, that's I forget his name right now. That's the actor who played Simon Tam in Firefly. Who in that
That's
he gets super.
right, I forgot it again.
Yeah, he's great, and even in the episode where he was kind of the big villain, he still didn't get much to do. And I went through that whole episode without recognizing him. When it's a show that I'm familiar with, that's unusual. I think it's just because they didn't give him that much to do. And so I don't know. I'm not complaining that the Shrapnel, the character, didn't get enough character stuff. I just wish, because he's pretty much just just kind of serviceable as another member of Suicide Squad. He kind of just exists in this to be the guy that gets killed off. But I mean, anybody could have played that. So I don't know. I just wish if they were going to cast that actor, give him somebody cool. Because more and more, I feel like Bronze Tiger is at least getting cool action stuff.
See, there are in fact white tigers. Tigers aren't bronze.
That's true, but they're not. But they're not bronze. And it's funny. I'm kind of waiting for someone to actually call him Bronze Tiger again, because ever since Felicity was like tigers aren't bronze, everyone's just been calling him Tiger. It's like nobody actually heard her say that, but it's like she changed the universe so that nobody calls him that.
I was kind because they kept calling him Tiger. I was kind of waiting for somebody to make a snarky remark about like it's great.
Or for it to weirdly, vaguely turn into like an Arkham City reference or something. I don't know. Anyway, what else? Okay, so Diggle, what did you think of the characterization there? I really liked the stuff with him and Deadshot. Especially the thing he says at the end to Lila.
That the guy
Um,
that killed his brother acted was acted better than the person who's supposed to be protecting people.
and I especially like the word choice there because Deadshot keeps throwing around the word honor because that's the last conversation he and Diggle had in the previous episode with Deadshot. And so I really got the sense, by the way, here that like something Diggle had said and the stuff that happened in that episode had really spoken to Deadshot, where like it changed him a little bit, because when he says I'm doing it for honor, he says it in a snarky way, but I kind of think there's truth to it, and I kind of think that he respects Diggle to a degree, and that it changed him. And so I really like the word choice there, that Diggle doesn't throw the word honor around again, but that he actually says acted with more character. I
That's it.
really like that line. That's great.
Yeah. Well, and I thought this is out since the Rush episode at least. This is the most he's gotten to do, and it's always nice to get to see him do stuff because he was kind of our favorite part of season one, and season two he's kind of gotten the short shrift. So it was really nice to see him, just get to do stuff.
How did you feel about the flashbacks?
I like that we got a flashback that had nothing to do with Oliver. This is the first time that's happened.
That's not true.
Is it not?
I guess it. Well, I'm
In
trying to
in,
think.
in season one, we had the flashback to right before they left, but it was still centered on Oliver. I mean, it was also his dad, but Oliver was still there.
Well, but just a couple episodes ago, we had all the flashbacks about
Does Oliver show up
Laurel,
in the
Laurel and
Sarah one?
Sarah.
Oh,
Yeah. That's what I
yeah.
was going to say. Yeah,
I
the
forgot
Lances.
about that.
Yeah. We had all that stuff about the Lances, and we talked about how it was kind of interesting that we didn't go to the island at all there either. I mean, it's centered on Oliver in the sense that everybody's talking about Oliver, I guess. But I mean, like he's not there.
Well, this is the first one that has nothing to do with anything of
Nothing
the
to do with Oliver
established.
at all. Yeah, and that's where I was going to meet you halfway. You're right about that.
I I liked it, but at the same time, I don't know. Like it tied into the actual plot of the episode, but I wish I feel like that it should have been a different story. I don't know. It just seemed like they just kept cutting back to them walking through the desert.
Yeah, it struck me as highly unnecessary, with the exception of one moment. It's one of those things where there's not really a paralleling story there so much as just in informative
Yeah,
stuff.
it sets up how he met the guy
Right, but the thing is, well, that
and
and
his wife,
we actually
his
see,
ex-wife.
I think the most important moment though is that, well, there's that, but I think the most important moment is that we actually see him accidentally kill a kid.
Oh yeah,
And I think they want us to see that. The trouble with it is we have to have all this other stuff in order to get that. And we see the first moment that he and his ex-wife meet, and I kind of like that's the last thing we get from the flashback. So there's a couple of moments, but overall it felt a little patty, especially because that whole event has been talked about so much that I felt like we knew a lot of it.
yeah,
Like, I don't even mean talked about in this episode. I mean, like, season one, there's a lot of stuff about this.
yeah,
Or I think it's one, maybe more in two, I forget, but like there's discussion about this particular event. So I don't know, it felt a little bit patty, and I think the difficulty is the format, where like most of the episodes are giving us flashback stuff on top of the present day stuff. And we haven't had really any episodes, I don't think, where we get all present day and then maybe like a scene of flashback. I really think this would have worked a little bit better if we had just flashed back once or twice, but it breaks format. And I think that's the only reason they did it this way.
yeah.
So I don't know. That's really my biggest criticism, and it's not really that big of a criticism. It's not that big of a deal. It also gives us more stuff with his old soldier buddy who was played by the guy from Farscape.
Oh yeah, I didn't even put that together. Yeah, the guy that ran the Blackhawks.
Yes, the black. Yeah, that's it.
Is it Blackhawks? Okay, yeah, yeah.
Is it Blackhawks or is it?
It's Black something.
I think it's Blackhawks. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's Blackhawks. Yeah, I didn't even put together that was that guy.
Yep, that's who that is.
Okay, yeah. I didn't watch
So
Farscape, so.
yeah, well, that's the reason I remembered him, because I was like, oh yeah, that's right, that actor I recognize. Okay, I want to just kind of go to some random notes back and forth now. Something I really appreciated about this episode was the very, talking about present day stuff, the very strong presence we feel all the way through this of Slade, and he's never on screen
I have
except
I
for a
have a
couple seconds.
note. Did it remind you a little bit of when Venom first shows up and he's just kind of in the background just screwing with Peter?
I didn't think of that, but that's a great connection. It is a lot like that. Yeah.
It's specifically when there's that one shot where we see him behind Oliver and then Oliver turns and he's not there. It reminded me a lot of Venom. And tying that into the last episode where he shows up at Oliver's house. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just he's such a looming, terrifying presence right now, and I really love the way he's dragging things out. Like that could be very irritating, where it feels like the story doesn't know, like the story has just one big end game, so it's got to stretch it for several episodes. It's not like that. It's the character doing
I
that,
have
and
some questions
it's
with
driving
him.
Oliver crazy, and I'm really enjoying seeing Steve Amell play that, because I think he's in a place right now where he's feeling like he's about to have to maybe compromise the role of hero that he's finally managed to get himself into. And like once he kills Slade again, that kind of goes back to season one Oliver again. And so I mean like that's all really good drama in my mind.
This I've got a question with this, and it also comes up at the end.
Yeah.
Okay, so Slade has this big master planned end game thing. He's manipulating the politics of the city and all that. But in this episode, it seems like he just wants to screw with Oliver and kill him. I'm not sure why he did all this stuff with blood. And I mean, there's not really anything with Deathstroke, so maybe he does have a reason. But I don't know, those two things seem kind of not together. And then at the end, we find out that he's been working as a mercenary, killing his way across the country. and I'm not sure how that fits into, this scheme for vengeance he's been building for 5 years.
Yeah, and I feel like you're supposed to be asking those questions. I'm very confident it's going to come together.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily criticizing. I'm just saying right now I feel like we have a couple of pieces that I'm not sure how they fit together yet.
Well, let me suggest a couple things. One of them is at the point where Slade finally shows up at Oliver's house and shakes his hand. He's got new plans that he's going to finally start setting in motion.
Yeah. Well, and we know he's watching the house.
Yeah, exactly. So like new things have gotten set. So I mean, like, I'm not really worried about the fact that he hasn't done any of this before, or that like this is all he's doing. I kind of think that this is a character who is so scheming now, and is so patient and good at planning stuff, that everything that he's doing behind the scenes politically, we don't know his full blown end game, and I kind of enjoy the mystery there. I think the deal is, unlike a lot of villains whose whole sole motivation is vengeance, I think he has a plan for after he kills Oliver.
That could be. I
I think that's what's going on. I think he's got a much larger, grander plan, and he has to kill Oliver before he can find any kind of way to move on.
I'm
Um,
wondering if his, I mean, I guess this can go in predictions, but I'm kind
sure.
of wondering if his plan is to somehow kill the city, and he's doing that through politics or maybe moving things to motions, because he says he's going to take everything from Oliver. I'm
Yeah.
wondering if he wants to like get rid of Starling City.
Well, that's a really good suggestion, especially given that I always took his whole thing of I'm going to kill everyone you care about to just be his friends and his family, but the person he starts with is Alexei.
Yeah.
You're talking. I mean, I was very surprised by that. He's watching his every move, so I'm not even sure that he knew about the partnership with Alexei before this episode, but he might have. I think it's really interesting that the first person he finally makes a move against and kills is like the lowest bottom rung on the totem pole of Oliver's allies and friends. Like, that's kind of the bottom. That's his last resort person he goes to when he needs something. And that's the first person Slade has finally decided, I'm going to make a move and kill. Before this, he has killed nobody anything remotely close to Oliver.
Well, and bring this
I think
up,
that's
I'd forgotten about it. Last episode, Diggle was taken out off screen, and Slade said it was somebody who was working with him, and we kind of assumed that it was the Suicide Squad, and that's how we were going to lead into this episode. That doesn't
yeah,
pay
you're
off
right.
at
Thanks for
all.
bringing that up. No, I'm not sure what that was about. Although it doesn't bother me too much because, again, since we see it's consistent. Since we see Slade finally kill someone and he's that far down the like I said, the ladder of Oliver's allies, I get the sense that we just kind of made the obvious assumption, but that what Slade really meant when he said that Diggle is safe for now is I'm not taking prisoners and I'm not killing anyone yet. I'm going to make my move when I want to. So he had someone go up and knock Diggle out, but then he just left him there.
I think someone left a comment about the person that took Diggle out appearing female. I'm wondering if it's Huntress.
I doubt that very seriously.
Okay, I'm just
Only given, well, and I mean, like, I don't like to usually talk about stuff that's coming later, but like, given the and again, I guess it's maybe not later now, but given the synopsis for the next episode, there's a specific thing that brings Huntress to the city.
okay. I haven't read the synopsis, so.
And so I very seriously doubt that that's the case. It could be, but somebody in the comments wrote, and I missed this, that whoever it was looked like they were wearing red, which would not be Huntress
Oh, okay.
if she's wearing a normal outfit. But
Maybe it was oh no, is Isabel? What's her name?
Isabel,
Is it Isabel?
if that's who you're talking about.
Yes, because she wears red a lot.
Well, I guess I don't know. I don't really want to speculate too much about who knocked him out because I think it could very easily be nobody important.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we know Slade has a bunch of people that's working for him, so I mean, like, it could be anybody. Yeah, although it's going to be interesting to see where he got his minions.
Yeah. and how
Yeah.
I have a feeling we're gonna get a flashback episode where not a full flashback episode. I have a feeling we're going to get a Slade, an episode that's flashbacks with Slade, and show him start his little crusade and start building followers.
Very likely. Okay, so I always ask you this every episode. How'd you feel about the latest character turn for Laurel?
I hate it.
Oh man, really? Okay, so you're gonna say that it's way too quick in 180, right?
Um, no.
Okay,
My
all right.
issue is that after almost a season of showing her be wrong about everything and going down a hole, she has a moment of clarity, and now all of a sudden she's the Zen voice of reason who says exactly the most obvious thing, and we're supposed to think that she's grown as a character so much. I really didn't like it. And she's so kind of smug to Oliver. I really, I didn't like it.
I guess right now I'm gonna say I'm somewhat indifferent to it until I see where she goes from here. I like things about it, and I'm a little bit unsure about it all at the same time. It's one of those things where I kind of want to go back and watch this whole progression again and see just how much I really buy it. But
I actually wrote down
I
a
guess
worst line because of her.
wow. I guess I understand what you're saying Zen wise. Where suddenly she has this clarity and understands everything. I did like that. She did the mature thing and wants Oliver and Sarah to be together. I was kind of okay with that.
Yeah, that felt
Um,
fast, but yeah.
well, see, that's exactly what I thought you'd say.
um,
Like I said, I don't want to comment on it yet because I'm really unsure about it. I'm kind of on the fence about it. But
uh,
I'm so used to not liking her that my immediate reaction is say there must be something wrong with this. So I don't know. I kind of want to give it some thought.
let's see. Uh,
So Laurel's am I reading this right that Laurel is either going to work for Sarah at the bar or is applying for that job?
oh, I didn't get that at all. I thought she was
Well,
just chilling.
she was filling out an application.
Oh, I didn't put that together.
She was answering questions on an application, and I thought that it was for the maybe it wasn't for the bar, but that's what I thought it was. But I mean, if that were the case, man, she's really dropped all the way to the bottom, right? Like you think even getting disbarred, she could find something like with her skill set slightly more prestigious than working at a bar.
Yeah,
But since you didn't catch it, now I'm wondering if I'm wrong about it.
yeah. I didn't catch it either time I watched it. I thought she was just hanging out with Sarah.
Okay. Well, somebody in the comments, tell me if I'm wrong about that because I sure thought both times I watched it, I thought she was filling out a job application. Um, let's see what else. Well, what other notes do you have, Eric?
I've got two on Amanda Waller.
Oh, okay. Go ahead.
One is she showed up, and I'd kind of forgotten that we'd seen her before, and I still hate that she's thin. Somebody needs to start giving her donuts. I hate thin Amanda Waller.
Yeah, that's
Uh,
new 50. It's gonna be like that.
I know, I hate it. Also, does she seem a little too giddy and happy when she blows up shrapnel?
I don't know. I didn't really
She
get
had
that.
like this smirk on her face. She's like, "Oh, he's leaving. He's leaving." Um,
It kind of struck me more as just a for the audience thing of
yeah, that
hey,
might
look,
be.
expect we go here. I kind of get the sense that she's got this very like smug, almost emotionless expression where like she's just cavalier is more the sense I'm getting from her most of the time. Like she's not like real staunch. You're right. She's a little bit smiley, but it's sort of like just I don't know. I just generally am okay with the horrible things I have to do.
Yeah, yeah, maybe that's what it is. She just seemed a little too happy with that. Um, Also, there's the whole thing with Diggle and his ex-wife, which is all nice and everything. But once again, at the beginning of this episode, we have a scene with him and Felicity, and they have so much chemistry. I just
Oh,
want
I
them
know. I had the
together.
same note. Man, oh man, then like nice PJs and stuff. I like boy, I'm gonna sound like a little fangirl right now. I so want these two to get together, man.
Me too. We're
I really
shipping. We're shipping right now.
no marshmallows. I'm out. Like, it's such a cute scene. Like, I really enjoyed that whole moment.
They just need to
In
get
fact,
together.
in fact, that I might have to change my favorite moment to that moment. I really enjoyed that. Am I crazy? That was a great
No, it's
scene.
a really good scene.
They're so honest. Like you can kind of tell. I mean, unless you're just really, you can kind of tell those actors seem to really like each other. I don't know if I can read that sort of thing into performances, but I mean, like, I don't know. They just, whenever they're on screen together, they seem to have a lot of chemistry,
Yeah.
natural chemistry. And you know what? It's okay. They don't have to be romantic. Just put them in scenes together more often. They could even have a kind of brother sister thing. I don't care. I just want those characters on
Yeah, they're
screen
just
more.
really fun together.
I liked a lot of foreshadowing stuff in this episode, especially when Alexi. That whole thing was really interesting to me. Especially when Alexi looks at Oliver and says, "If you take this envelope, we're done."
Right.
It's like, wow, you called that because now you're dead.
um,
Boy, were you kind of surprised there at that stuff? Like, I love the continuity in this show. This episode had a lot of really interesting callbacks to early things that I forgot all about. I really was interested in the fact that Oliver is so desperate that he's willing to burn his bridges with the Brotherhood.
yeah, I thought that was really interesting. I,
Just strong
is it just
performance.
me? Do you kind of forget that Oliver knows them until he goes back to them every time?
Every single time. And I also really like that they knew about the Gulag.
Yeah.
Like I said, all that continuity stuff was so great. I mean, more and more with the writers on this show, I get the sense that these guys are just so into their own show,
Oh yeah.
and that can be great for a show like this.
And there was something that I noted that I'm wondering if it's foreshadowing to something later, or if it's just like a fun throwaway line. We established that Oliver hates swimming.
Yeah,
Um,
I had the same thing. I was like, when are we going to see him have to deal with that? And given all the island and ocean stuff, surely somewhere, at least on the island.
yeah. I was wondering. I was like, is this? There was two things I thought. One, he's gonna have to swim at some point, and he's gonna hate it. Or two, I was like, is that a Smallville reference? Because the guy that played Green Arrow did the Aquaman pilot. Is that like a little thing?
Oh wow, that never would have even occurred to me. It just totally whoosh over my head. Good call. But I kind of doubt they were thinking that. But
My mind tends to go to set up some payoffs. And I was like, is this a setup? Are we setting something here?
oh, me too. There, I think they're most certainly going to do something with that. So swimming is a thing that almost every superhero ends up having to do at some point.
But at the same time, I was like, maybe it's just a nice little character thing.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and also just reminding us about his relationship with his mother. I think it was really smart to put that scene in there, even that late to the end because of all the friction between them last episode. Like you don't really want us to get too far removed from that. You want to keep that in our heads right now because that's going to be really important, given that she's still running against blood. They have so much to juggle right now, and most of it they're really handling really well. There's still a couple things where I'm like, where is Isabel still? I don't think we've seen Isabel in
yep,
10 episodes. Where is Isabel and where's Merlin?
yep.
Where is Merlin? What's going on with that? Are we ever going to see him again this season? Surely we will. We would be remiss if we didn't discuss the
The
little
wrist guns.
The Harley Quinn thing.
Oh, I was gonna say the wrist guns because I was so happy that Deadshot had wrist guns, and because when he first showed up, he had wrist guns and they looked really dumb, and they fixed it. They made them look kind of cool now. But yeah, okay, let's talk about the Harley Quinn thing. It was a fun little gag. Everybody overreacted all over the internet.
Yeah, I had exactly the same thing, but that's okay. For me, it was just like I wish I'd gotten to see it without knowing about it already.
Yep, I got it spoiled ahead of time too.
And it wouldn't have even bothered me that the internet blew up about it because people love that character and stuff. But I mean, and it was, I mean, Tara Strong did the voice and stuff. But that would not have bugged me at all whatsoever if it weren't for the fact that I didn't get to experience it first.
Yeah, and it was a fun little joke, but like I was kind of annoyed because I saw people all over the internet being like, "Oh, Harley Quinn's gonna show up," and I'm like, "No, no, that's not."
I don't think so either. Now, I will say that if they decided to do that character, I wouldn't have a problem with it in the show because
No, but I
they're
don't think that's what that was.
I don't think so either, but I will say this just because people are speculating about that. If they did it, and I don't think they will, but I mean, if they did the Suicide Squad Harley Quinn, that's a 52 thing. You can do that without her having anything to do with the Joker. I think you really could do that character without the Joker at all. But having said that, the deal is we see her from behind, and it's a voice actor. It's just a nod. They got the person that is currently voicing her and stuff to voice that. Like if they were actually seriously considering using that character, wouldn't they have hired an actress?
Yeah.
I mean, like a physical actress to play the whole role. So anyway, but I'm just saying that if they decided later on to do it,
I feel like that opens up a can of worms with the Joker that they don't want to go into.
also, considering that we're about to get a prequel Batman show, I think it's really unlikely that they'll go with anybody that major. Although Nightwing,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
but we'll see what that's about because I don't know if it's even been confirmed that that's going to be Dick Grayson, or has it?
I thought it had, but I don't know.
Boy, they must have come up with that before they knew Gotham was going to happen.
It could be like that guy in Birds of Prey who was totally supposed to be Dick Grayson, but they just made up a superhero.
Although I would love it if they would be okay with just having some characters cross like that, given that these continuities are not going to be the same continuity more than likely.
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
and
it's fine with me. Have different versions of people. That's totally cool. Like I hope that they don't get stuck in like the kind of unfortunate thing with Bruce Wayne in Smallville. Like just let them use the characters they want to use.
yeah, just be like, you can't use Gordon or Batman, but
Well, let's go ahead and move on now to best one worst.
dude, I actually still have a couple more notes.
Okay, go ahead.
A
No problem.
bunch more notes. Not a bunch.
Oh, geez. I was done with mine. I'm sorry. We're already like 40 minutes in.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see. Well, I love how much weakness Oliver shows throughout this entire episode. I love how he's kind of having a mini mental breakdown. And this episode, it's specifically his conversation with Sarah. He's really starting to show signs of the Green Arrow that I know from the comics. Of just kind of struggling with not being able to control the world around him. Which I feel like is kind of new. I feel like for most of the show, he's been in control or felt like he's in control.
I think a lot of the time been in denial about how much control he's had.
Yeah.
Because he's constantly talking about how necessary his lies are while simultaneously being angry at other people for lying. I think he's losing some of that denial in this episode. I think we're seeing a little bit of vulnerability there.
Yeah, and I really like that stuff. Let's see, I have two other notes. They made this in the what do you call that where they show like the last time on Arrow type of a thing. They specifically showed the scene where Deadshot tells Diggle that he was hired to kill his brother, not the other person. I was expecting that to be followed up on this episode, and it wasn't. We still don't know why he was hired to kill his brother or what his brother was into or who hired Deadshot. And I was kind of expecting it, and it never happened.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't pick up on that.
And then my last note is, okay, so Oliver goes, actually, it's two notes, but just it's the same scene. Oliver goes to Waller. Is that just a complete coincidence? Because I know that Diggle doesn't do anything, and he doesn't seem to have noticed that Diggle's missing all episode. Not a comment, nothing. Just Diggle's gone, and he doesn't say a word about it. Is it a coincidence that he just happens to go to Waller after Diggle did a job for her? Because
Uh,
he doesn't
I,
mention it at all.
that's really interesting that I didn't even think about that. I guess my subconscious brain must have just assumed that that was a little while later after Diggle and he had a chance to debrief. But you're right, we're not told that.
Well, and he like when he talks to her, he doesn't mention anything about like he used my guy or anything. Um, and then he tells Waller that Slade's
Yeah,
alive.
right. It does seem potentially disconnected because it's all about Slade and obviously they have a history.
Yeah,
So you're right. It might be somewhat coincidental. Wow. Hmm. Yeah, I'm not in love with that. If that's the case.
and then he tells Waller that Slade's alive, and she is vehement that he is dead. And then out of nowhere, she's like, "You might want to look into this Deathstroke guy." That felt really weird. Was that just me? That she was like, "No, no, no, he's dead. I think he's alive. Well, you should check out this Deathstroke guy."
I thought it was more like well, there's this guy we've been tracking that now that you mention it could very easily be him. Like I thought it was well, I thought Slade was dead, but it matches up with this guy because she wouldn't have had any reason to mention that to Oliver earlier.
Okay, it seemed weird that he was like, "Slade's alive." She says no, and she's like, "Well, there's this Deathstroke guy." I don't know.
I think she's piecing it. I think she's piecing it together because I think she's figured out a lot of the pieces that whoever this Deathstroke guy is doing a lot of other things.
I have to say, I don't
That
think
was the sense I got from.
she's a very good actress. And there's a couple of times throughout the episode where I felt like she should be conveying what's going through her head through just like kind of body motion and how she says things, and she doesn't. I feel like she's kind of a weak actress. Um,
Yeah, I don't know. She hasn't had enough screen time for me to really be real critical of her acting ability. But now that you mention, I can totally see why you would say that.
and just one tiny note: there's a line that the way it's delivered just made me laugh. Um, when when Diggle and his ex-wife are discussing the differences between what the Suicide Squad does and what Team Arrow does, he says it's completely different from what Oliver and Sarah. And then there's like a pause, and he says, "Or I," and I was like, "Is that because you don't do anything? Is that because like you've had not like all season you've done nothing?"
That's really funny. Where he's like, for a moment there, I totally forgot I was even in that group. That's
Okay,
really funny.
that's the end of my notes.
That also jumped out at me as somewhat of an awkward line delivery. Okay, let's go on to best moment, worst moment. My best moment now is the hot chocolate scene, and I don't have to um I don't have to validate myself to anyone. I love that scene. Eric, what was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene was Deadshot and Diggle. When they all reconvene together after Shrapnel gets blown up, Diggle and Deadshot have that conversation back and forth where they talk about Zoe, and I thought that was a really good scene with both of them.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's what I had written down that
I
I
I, I figured.
with the hot chocolate scene. Worst moment. I just thought, like I said, the only thing I had was really the flashbacks were somewhat unnecessary here and there. I bet your worst moment had something to do with Laurel,
It's the Oliver Laurel scene.
the Oliver Laurel.
Surprise, surprise.
How many times has that been word for verbatim what you've written down? Like you can just copy and paste that for so
Um,
for you.
probably at least five this season.
Okay, let's go on to what's the big idea. This one's pretty straightforward. What did you write down, Eric?
I wrote doing the wrong thing for the right reasons.
Yep, that's pretty much it. And also, I really like the whole thing with Diggle, about like when Lila says we both live in the gray, but you just deny it. I
I,
thought that was all interesting.
See, when she said we live in the gray, I had a split second where I was like, is that one of those things with Swamp Thing and Animal Man, like the green and the red? Is there the gray?
Oh, Eric, you need to get your head out of comic book mode long enough to actually appreciate ideas and themes in a story and character development and opportunities for change and
But
the reason.
Deadshot had wrist guns.
but Eric, hot chocolate and stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's let's see. What wow. Apparently I wrote down a bunch of things that don't fit in this category. Okay. Guest stars, there's Kadir, but that's about it. Everybody else I think we've had before.
Yeah.
And Tara Strong doing Harley Quinn. The guy who played Kadir was Lee Mardub. I actually did not get a chance to look him up. I forgot to do that, so I don't know what else he's been in.
I
Um,
have no
I
idea.
I should have totally done that. Okay, let's go on to favorite line. Did you have a favorite line?
I did. It's kind of the most obvious line in the entire episode. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Where Deadshot shows up and says, "Give me a break. This ain't no task force. Let's call it like it is. Welcome to the Suicide Squad." I liked it.
I as usual, I ended up writing down a comedic line and a dramatic line. My dramatic line, of course, and I think this is the line that people are likely to remember from this episode, when Diggle said, "The man who killed my brother showed more character than the woman charged with saving the world." As we said earlier, just the word character there was a really good word choice. Also, when Deadshot is talking to Diggle and he says that it's a drone strike, and Deadshot says, "How contemporary."
Also, I have a worse line.
No, yeah, I was waiting for this. Go
That's
ahead.
brutal AA honesty talking. It's partially delivery, but also what? Did she be going to AA for like a week? Like most people don't even start talking for like a month in AA. They just listen. Um, it really bugs me. Also, given that she's like a serious like recovering drug addict and alcoholic, I don't know if you'd like joke about that like immediately. I don't like Laurel.
Let, let's uh, let's go over to comic book references. Obviously, Suicide Squad, all that stuff is all comic referencey. What I thought was really cool is the Ostrander suite.
Which they don't say Ostrander, they say Ostrander, and that threw me off.
Yeah, I didn't catch it the first time. It took me two viewings before I caught that one. Obviously, the Harley Quinn thing. I had to look this up. I mean, like I read this someplace. I wouldn't have picked this up immediately. I read that the Deathstroke mask scene on the roof is a direct callback to a scene in Identity Crisis. And it's been so long since I've read that I didn't immediately pick up on
Oh,
it.
I
But
forgot. I forgot to write a note about that scene.
there's a scene in Identity Crisis where Oliver, and it is Oliver, reads a note from Deathstroke on a roof like that, where he turns and sees him, and then he's gone, and the note reads, "We're not done," and it's got that mask with the thing through it, and that makes me wonder if the mask with the arrow through it from the very beginning of the show on the island isn't a callback to that specifically.
I thought of that the first time I watched the episode, but I forgot to write the note the second time. Okay, so we know the mask is still on the island as of the beginning of this season. Did he go back to the island, get the mask, or did he make a new mask and cut it specifically to look like the one on the island?
It's a really good question because you're right. Oliver went back to the island and the mask was still there. Does it seem strange to you that Oliver? I don't know why you think this. There's something in my head, and I guess when we finally see the big moment when Oliver shoots him in the eye, we'll maybe know this. But like, it doesn't seem like he would leave that mask there. It seems like he would go pull that off. I don't know. Like, it just seems weird that he just left it there.
I have this bad feeling that as good or bad as that scene's going to end up being, no matter what it is, that mask ending up on that pike with the arrow through it is going to feel really contrived. I feel
Yeah.
like getting to that is going to be,
Well, you're right, because somebody deliberately had to have put it there. It's not
yeah,
like that's where the mask wound up after he shot him in the face.
it's a scarecrow.
Scarecrow. Um, Lila got her code name finally. Harbinger. That's a
Harbinger.
thing. Yeah, okay, fine, but those are both correct ways to say that word.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm almost positive.
I'm
I
pretty
also
sure
think
they
it's really,
call her Harbinger in the show, though.
they do in the show, and you're right. I
Okay.
just forgot that's the way they pronounced it. That word has always been pronounced that way by myself. Anyway, sorry about that. But I also thought
I'm just gonna
that
make up pronunciations for words.
there were
I'm just
there
gonna.
were kinds. It wouldn't be the first time, Eric. I also you're the guy who used to always say verse instead of verses. I also thought that the harbinger thing was kind of interesting, considering the kind of thematic implications there, because there's this whole, Diggle has these huge beefs with her now of like compromising ethics and stuff, and she's put him in this compromising position, so she's sort of, really loose way a harbinger of death. Like, it's kind of neat that that's where we finally get that name.
Yeah. Um.
So, do you have any predictions that we didn't cover earlier? Because I feel like this whole podcast has been riddled with predictions.
Suicide Squad spin-off show, or just
That's not
just
prediction.
just
You just
traditional Suicide Squad, like one episode a season.
you think just every season we need a Suicide Squad episode?
Well, yes. Will we get it? I'm not sure, but I hope so. Because the way that they set it up, I feel like they're gonna be hanging around.
Yeah, I get the sense that that's not the well. Clearly, it's not the end of it. I mean, like Waller was real quick to be like, let's put the implants in spinal cords and we'll keep going.
Once an episode or once a season, Diggle's gonna get dragged into another Suicide Squad mission.
That would be so funny if that was just his regular. Here we go again.
That's exactly the line I had in my head.
Okay, I didn't really have anything that we didn't already talk about. I also wondered about the Amanda Waller on the island thing for season 3. I wrote that down before I ever read that comment. But that's about all I had.
Next episode, we're the episode people have already seen. Merlin and Isabel are going to be major players, and we're going to realize that it's all tied together.
And they're dating, and they've taken over the entire League of Assassins
I
together.
still think that the thing that I feel like Isabel's going to come back and she's going to be in charge of Queen Industries. I still feel like they want us to forget about her so that she can show up and be like, yeah, you haven't been in the office in like 6 months. Like, what did you
I think
expect?
I think it's incredibly glaring that she's not been mentioned this whole time, and because they've had such a good balance, and they're juggling all this stuff so well. I don't think that's a mistake. I think they're doing that on purpose. I'm with you.
Yeah. Other than
Yeah, that
that,
would
I
be
don't
that
have
would
any
be quite the
predictions.
scene when Oliver finally walks back into the office. Yeah, yeah, you never show up to work, you mook. Of course, I took everything over for
Oh,
you.
she's
Yeah,
got to call him a mook.
would that be great?
Mook needs to come back as an insult. I love Mook.
I've been working on it. I like that one too. Well, anyway,
I'm
let's
also a
go
big
on.
fan of Bum. Nobody calls him bums anymore.
Yeah, bum. Uh, what was your trivia question from last week, Eric? And what is the answer, sir?
My trivia question from last week was how did Slade lose his eye in the comics? And the answer is his wife shot him in the eye.
Yeah, a bunch of people got that right in the comments.
Yeah, he has a really bad family life.
There's a lot of eye shooting in DC
Well,
Comics.
his wife shot him in the eye. His son got killed. His other son was a Teen Titan, and then he got killed, and then he possessed him. His daughter went crazy, and to prove herself to him, she stabbed her own eye out to show that she's as awesome as he is. He doesn't have a good track record with his family.
Yeah, those just seem like the sorts of characters that at some point inevitably have to utter that famous line. We don't have the kinds of lives that other people have.
When his son was inside of his body controlling him, he killed Wintergreen and mounted his head on the wall.
Yeah, see, that's not normal behavior. My question from last time was, what is Oliver's middle name? And the answer is Jonas, which I don't think is comic book. I think they made that up.
Probably.
I love trivia like that.
You know, it would maybe be funny if his middle name was Jonah.
Okay, Eric, what is your trivia question for this week?
My trivia question for this week is in the Suicide Squad comics written by John Ostrander in the 80s, there's about a year where they were plagued by a prankster. What kind of prankster was it? Like what did he do to them to prank them all for like that year of comics?
And it wasn't the prankster?
It wasn't the prankster. It's actually a big mystery who it
Oh,
is.
cool.
In this super dark, serious, subversive comic, we have this person that just keeps pranking them. What kind of prankster is he?
Well, my question for this week is really easy one if you saw the episode, but it's Bronze Tiger kills only one person in this episode. Who was it?
You know, we didn't mention this, but he gets like fake shot, and then he's like out of the episode until later. They're like Bronze Tiger's on the move. I was like, oh, I forgot you were on this team.
Yeah.
No
Well,
love for
anyway,
Spawn.
thanks everybody as always for listening to our discussions. Like I said, sorry this one came out late, and we will try to get back on track for you next week. We appreciate all of the insightful questions and comments, and we'll talk to you again very shortly. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm gonna make a petition that we get backstory for Bronze Tiger, and he has a wife named Wanda.
Just one time I
He's on a Black Ops team. He could get burned alive.
That's true. Just one time I want Bronze Tiger to yell, Wanda!
And
Like,
I'm
that's
Eric.
God. Bronze Tiger takes up his own grave, and he's like, holy crap, there's another Bronze Tiger. All right, thanks again, everybody. We'll see you next week.